Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Heroes of the Storm, and today we're taking a look at Artanis. Newest hero to hit Heroes of the Storm. He was out about a week ago for those who pre-ordered Legacy of the Void. Unfortunately, I did not, so I've only played a handful of games with him, but I did spend some games against him. Quite a few. Let's just say that there was no game where he was not in, thanks to that pre-order bonus. So I had a little bit of experience playing against him before I got to play him, and I think it maybe helped me a little bit when I did finally play him. I did not pre-order Legacy of the Void, mainly because I haven't actually finished the previous game, Heart of the Swarm. Technically, I haven't even really started it. It's kind of bad, isn't it? Oh well, one day I will get there. So, alright, we are going to go, before we go into the try mode, though, we will go into the shop. We will take a look at just a few things for him real quick. We will take a look, see, free purchases of Legacy of the Void. But we will look at his skin variations really quick. Standard Artanis. Red, which I kind of like the red look on him. And then blue. Yeah. More of a grey to me, but anyway. Master skin, so you can see the differences between the two. And this time he has a purple skin and a green. He does have the Purifier Artanis as a mechanized skin.
The time for contemplation has passed.
This one I like. This skin I like because it's got some pretty nice color variations. You've got the pure red, and then the purple, which honestly looks like something out of Neon Genesis Evangelion. Practically looks just like the mecha out of that show with the color scheme, the green and the purples. Very, very nice.
A Templar is never above training.
Blizzard did make some changes to this whole try option, which might make this a little easier. We'll go ahead and turn the minions off really quick, but we can toggle allies, minions, we can toggle the cooldowns, we can actually make it so that all cooldowns are turned off for a set time, and I can set the level independently, so I don't have to keep resetting it. So we'll go ahead and take a look at talents as we go along. So first of all, Artanis. He is a tank, the very first StarCraft tank that we've gotten in Heroes of the Storm. He has several really nice abilities, but first, let's look at his trait, what makes him special as a tank. He has Shield Overload. It is a 20-second cooldown. When you take damage, when you're below 50% health, you gain a shield. In this case, it says 186-point shield. You can see his health is about 930, so it's not huge. We'll go ahead and let it go off here. You get that shield for 5 seconds or until it's consumed. And of course, here you take damage. It's a decent chunk, and considering that it's only got a 20-second cooldown, you can actually stay alive quite a bit when you've taken damage with this activated here. We'll go ahead and... I can only toggle the cooldowns, huh? I can't just reset cooldowns. Okay, that's fine.
Reveal the way.
Do it one more time. And you can kind of see the armor appears on him in there. I just consumed it. So 4 seconds is the length that you have it for, or of course until the enemy is able to pull it off of you. Your basic attacks will lower the cooldown by 4 seconds. So you can make the cooldown quite short with that trait. If you don't hit anything, of course, it's 20 seconds. That's basically to keep you from constantly having a shield as you're running away. Now, as an indicator here, I'd like to point out that the ring on Artanis' back is actually a visual clue that his shield is ready to pop. So if you go in and take damage while that's up, you'll notice that... Try not to die. There we go. The shield activates, and now the ring no longer has that glow. But once it resets, you'll see there, it's back again.
A bold plan.
This makes me wonder if I can survive with it constantly proccing. Nope, because you have to take damage. See, you have to take damage before it'll turn on. So yes, even with infinite cooldowns, you will ultimately die. Oh, yes, another new feature apparently of the try option is that we have all of the camps down here to test out. Also a test dummy, so you can actually take a look at your DPS. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and put that on so you can see his DPS and go over some of his abilities. Here we have Blade Dash. It's a 10-second cooldown. You dash forward, you deal 30, and then dash back to do 90. Here we are at level 1. The big takeaway from this is that the dash out does 1 point of damage. The dash back does 3 times as much. So if we go ahead and move here and take a look at his DPS, it's sitting at about 56. We'll go out and then back. Overall damage per second didn't change, of course. See if we can bring it up. No. So it's a quick burst of damage, but because there's that return, there's a little bit of slowdown on it. So the idea behind this is because the return damage is so much higher, is you really don't want to aim for hitting them with the initial hit. You want to aim for hitting them on the return. So you kind of want to lead your targets a bit. Alternatively, you want to put yourself out there where you want to force the enemy to run away. So if you're trying to split the enemy, for example, you can put yourself out there in a dive, and if the enemy's smart, they will move away from your return path so they don't take a whole bunch of damage. So you can use that to disrupt enemy movements. His second ability is Twin Blades. 4-second cooldown, really short. It basically gives him a double strike. It doubles up his auto attack. So as we'll do this, we'll hit this, and you'll see that his damage per second stabilizes there about 63. I'll pop that. You can see it went up. I mean, of course, obviously, with infinite cooldowns, it's going to go up quite high. But if I turn that off, his cooldown on it is exceptionally short, as you can see here. Now, the key takeaway on this one is that since it does double the basic attack, it is just like Wind Fury for Thrall, in that it does work with multiple talents, and it does work with his trait. So your shield overload will get constant reductions by using the Twin Blade. So Artanis, his playstyle is basically to get in there, get into the thick of the fight, and stay in the fight. He will continually activate his trait so that he can stay out there. Now, the best part about Artanis is that he is the second character to have something of a hook, kind of like Stitches. In this case, it's Phase Prism with 14-second cooldown. It's a prism that deals 50 damage, and it swaps positions with theirs. So unlike the hook that Stitches has, where you kind of stay put, and then you pull them back to you, you actually swap positions with them. Can't do it with the dummy, though. So I will toggle the minions, and just show it off briefly on Arthas, so you can take a look at it. It's very useful. You can be chasing enemies and then put them out of position, or if, let's say, my allies are in front of me, I could use this to body block Arthas. Of course, I don't have them here, so I can't do that, but you could body block characters and keep them from getting away. A lot of people tend to lose themselves when you switch positions with them, because they were going one way, now all of a sudden they have to go another. Smart players will, of course, try and use the momentum against you, so if you swap positions with them, all of a sudden they're here, they may just turn around and run the other way. That is one way of dealing with Artanis as well, if he swaps positions with you. Sometimes running back is smart, sometimes just changing direction and not worrying about the fact you've been swapped is also good. So looking at talents, interesting thing about Artanis being a tank is that he actually has a good amount of assassin-type talents. But we have Seasoned Marksman here, just to start with that. Obvious, basic talent. Every 6 enemy kills, you gain 1 basic attack damage. Heroes count as 3 towards the stack. So you can activate that in order to get a bunch of damage. That does work very well with Twin Blades. And he does have a few other talents down the line that will help with that. Just to point those out now so you can get an idea of builds. You have, here it is, Triple Strike that will hit 3 times. So you can get Seasoned Marksman with that. And of course, he does get Nexus Blades at level 20. So he does have quite a few of assassin capabilities. And with his hardier hit points and talents, he can be out there in the thick of it longer than most assassins. Other abilities are the Cadrian Resonance. Phase Prism, if it misses, reduces the cooldown by 8 seconds and it refunds all of the mana. So I'll go ahead and throw that out there. You can see it misses, give me back the mana, and it's only a 4-second cooldown at that point. So, just in case you're not very good with hitting it, that can be very nice. Wow, set level. Does that reset? No, it doesn't. Wow. Okay, I'll get used to that. I'll get used to this yet. All right. Other two options affect your W, the Twin Blades. You have Reactive Parry. Activating Twin Blades reduces the damage received for the next basic attack by 50%. Stores 2 charges. So it's basically an active block. You activate it and you'd reduce your basic damage. So it can make him fairly tanky against auto-attack characters. Speaking of which, Artanis, yes, is very good against auto-attack characters because he can get there in the thick of it, constantly activating the shields. And because auto-attack characters will typically kind of chip away at you, you can have the shield up before the major damage gets done. So characters like Tychus will definitely have a hard time getting through the shield first, because the damage they do will be minimal, then the shield will be back up. Amateur opponent, Twin Blades will deal 100% bonus damage versus non-heroic enemies. Have to say, I haven't actually tried this one or tested this one out. Artanis doesn't feel like the best siege type, and honestly, he has better options for lane clearance. So as far as this one goes, if you're looking for defensive, I recommend Reactive Parry. If you're looking for offense, recommend Seasoned Marksman. This seems to be a very popular choice. The Resonance can be nice if you're trying to stay out there and want to have the Prism more often, but honestly, Artanis has never been very mana hungry in the times that I've played him.
Strategic.
All right, we go up to level 4.
Choose a talent.
Knocks us all the way back. We have Shield Battery, reduce overload cooldown if it expires. So what that means is if your cooldown on the shield completely expires, so if I take the shield and I last for the full 5 seconds, this will reduce the cooldown by 6. Considering that the cooldown, I'm pretty sure, starts right away.
So this is the plan.
We'll show that off here. Shield procs, and yes, the shield starts right away, and when it finally ends, it brings you down to 9. So it can reduce the cooldown by about 25%. Not bad, but quite honestly, not a talent I recommend. Simply because
Choose a talent.
It's very difficult to actually make the cooldown finish. If you're out there and playing Artanis properly, you're going to be out there fighting, and you're going to lose the shield each time. So there are much better options in my opinion. Alright, Chrono Surge. Hitting an enemy hero with the Phase Prism will grant 25% bonus attack for 4 seconds. Again, not an option I recommend. Simply because when you're swapping with people, you're completely changing positions, and especially if you're at the outer edge of the Prism's range here. Now I've got that 4-second buff, but it still took me about a second and a half to actually get to Arthas. So you're losing time on that. If they're right up close to you, so if you end up in a melee duel with them, and they don't run, that can be quite useful. But honestly, you usually want to use that for swapping positions to stop enemies. Again, not the one I would recommend, but there are probably some instances where it can be very useful, and maybe even some builds where you might want it. You can even combine that with the cooldown reduction, should you miss. Alright, moving on to these. These activate your W, the Blade Dash. We have Lethal Eclarity. Increases the Blade Dash range and speed by 30%. So to give you an idea, I will show the dash. And then activate the Eclarity. Reset cooldowns. You'll see, it doesn't really go that much further. However, that little bit extra can quite help. And you'll notice he gets out there quite quickly. So if I reset the talents... See, I actually don't quite reach him there. And it takes me just that much longer to get to him. That extra edge, actually hitting an opponent on the edge of Blade Dash is probably one of the best places to do it. It stops the enemy from getting a chance to run away, and you'll definitely hit them with both attacks on that ability.
Choose a talent.
I'm really liking this, by the way. It's making this so much easier. There's going to be hardly any edits on this video. Alright, the next one is Templar Zeal. Blade Dash's cooldown recharges 75% faster while you are below 50% health. If you're looking for an offensive option, this is excellent. So 75% off, you're looking at about 7.5 seconds. So you're looking at maybe 2.5 seconds cooldown on that. So let me go ahead and get the health low. We'll activate it, and you can see just how quickly it comes back. We'll turn the cooldowns back off. Or cooldowns back on, I should say. Alright, so let's take a look. Yep, it's coming back about every 5 seconds. The cooldown timer shows the normal numbers, but it's ticking down faster. So you'll get it back about every 5 seconds. Again, very good for a offensive build. This will also synergize well with other dash options. So, as for example, the next tier, you have Blade Dash reduces shield overload cooldown. So every time you Blade Dash and hit an enemy, it reduces the shield overload by 4 seconds, which is exactly what your auto attacks do. So you can have your shield more often while using the dash, and basically you're getting more damage out there by doing the dash, and you're also getting your shields back quickly. So you're doing damage and you're being tanky while doing it. So Artanis can go out and deal damage while taking it at the same time. It's very nice. Alright, let's set the level to 7.
Choose a talent.
Take a look at other options here. So we already talked about Psionic Synergy, in which the cooldown is reduced of your shield overload every time you hit an enemy. So let's look at Solarite Reaper. This increases the damage of Blade Dash by 150%. Now, on its own, that might not seem like a really great talent, right? It's only the first dash, not the second. So the first dash is only, as we mentioned, like a third of the damage. So it's only going up a little bit. However, this has some uses in several maps. One, it's excellent lane clear. This is the lane clear that you want that the Tier 1 talents wouldn't provide you. The amateur opponent, really not the best lane clear. This, though, as you can see, is going to do a bunch of damage to the lane. Solarite Reaper is actually very useful in maps like, let's say, the Infernal Shrines, or perhaps Haunted Mines. Because with this talent, you can go through the mines and kill the minions instantly, and you'll dash through them so you pick up the skulls at the same time you're killing them. Artanis is absolutely efficient at clearing out the mines with this ability. So even if it's the only offensive thing you get, it can be useful in those situations. Warp Sickness. This prism will allow it to slow the enemy's movement by 30%. So not only do you swap positions with them with the phase prism, but now they move a bit slower. So you've basically knocked them out of position, and they have a hard time getting away. Lastly, you have follow through. I don't like this option, and I don't recommend it for the same reasons that I don't recommend the last one, which was Chrono Surge. Follow through, much like any other character that gets it, increases your basic attack damage for 6 seconds after you've used an ability. When it comes to Artanis, using your dash makes you go out and come back. And yeah, you got 6 seconds to attack the enemy, but the enemy could already have moved out of position when you do that. The other ability, Twin Blades, is a toggle. You can activate it, and it won't actually turn on until you hit the next enemy, much like Karazim's attack buff. So, really, you have two abilities here that are very, very hard to use with follow through. And the same with the Phase Prism. You fire it out there, and you've swapped positions, and then you have to go back to attack them. Or they're moved out of position, something like that. Basically, it's really difficult, in my opinion, to use those. And they seem to be fairly unpopular choices to begin with. Now, while Warp Sickness is good, my top recommendations are typically Solarite Reaper or Psionic Synergy, whether you're going offense or defense. If you're going to go offense, then you can go with the Solarite Reaper. If you're going defense, then Psionic Synergy, because Psionic Synergy will constantly give you your shields. At least those are my recommendations. Alright, so let's look at level 10. Probably should have done this with his normal abilities. But level 10 sees us with 2 ultimates, as usual. Artanis has the wonderful distinction of being a very global hero. While his abilities are very short range, his ultimates both have no range. So let's look at Suppression Pulse. You fire an area pulse from the Spear of Adun, dealing 150 damage and blinding enemies for 4 seconds, unlimited range.
A wise action.
So as you can see, it's got a very nice radius to it, and you can use it anywhere you want. And of course, it does reveal that area when you use it. It's also got a very short cooldown of 50 seconds. This is probably the most useful ability if you're going up against auto-attack teams. You can, of course, use it against groups like this, and of course they can't do damage to me now because I'm have them blind. And I can keep blinding them. Because I have no cooldowns. That's neither here nor there. So honestly, this is really good for enemy teams that have characters like Vala or Raynor, Tychus, things like that. I probably would only recommend it though if they seem to have a majority of those type of characters. Otherwise, I really like the other one, and the other ultimate seems to be the more popular one as well.
Choose a talent.
Just real quick. This is the Purifier Beam. Target an enemy hero with an orbital beam from the Spear of Adun. It deals 240 damage per second for 8 seconds, and the beam will chase the target. So this beam, you cannot use it to target buildings, but it is also another global ultimate. And it can do quite a bit of damage. You'll see there's a lead up time, they can see it coming down, and it will always strike at the center of the enemy for the first hit. So this is a great way to finish off enemies that are running away, enemies that are mobile, that are very hard to deal with. This is perfect for, because they can run away, and if they've got low health, that initial hit will still kill them. But as you might have seen there as Artanis ran, you can very easily outrun the beam just by walking. But if they don't outrun it, you can see it's also doing quite a bit of damage. Apparently I can put more than one beam on him. So why would you choose an ultimate that the enemy can very easily get away? Well, that's the thing, is they have to keep moving. If they don't, they are going to die. You will do a ton of damage to them if they allow it to hit them. So it is a great deterrent. It will allow you to get characters out of the fight that you don't want there. Now, you have to be careful about that because, say, characters like healers, probably not the best choice because they can just run around in a circle while still healing, especially if they're a Lili. If they're a Malfurion, they can still kind of run around and but they can still target while running around in a circle. So you want to usually pick a target that is going to be more stationary when they attack. So say your Sergeant Hammers, even maybe the melee characters that have to get in close, because if a melee character is sitting there up front and fighting, they're not dodging the beam, and if they're dodging the beam, they're not doing the damage potential they could be doing. So this is a very good deterrent. Higher cooldown at 80 seconds though. Alright, so before I move on
Choose a talent.
to other talents, let's just go ahead and go to 30. And we'll look at the modifiers for these two ultimates. So we'll go Suppression Pulse, and at 20 we can see the next upgrade for that is Orbital Bombardment. Suppression Pulse gains an additional charge, and there's a 10-second cooldown between uses. So I can activate it, and now I've got the ability to use it twice. It still has a standard 50-second cooldown. Just do that again. So in 50 seconds I'll get another charge, but I can still use my next one in 10 seconds. Honestly, not great. I don't really think you need to have it twice. The other options at 20 are a little bit better.
Choose a talent.
For Purifier Beam, again, this one is not one of my favorites either, but we'll toggle the minions. Target Purified. If the target of the Purifier Beam dies, it automatically recasts on the nearest enemy hero. Now, I kind of mentioned how this is more of a deterrent than it really is a kill, although you can use it to very quickly
Choose a talent.
take out an enemy that's low on health and running away. Just do that again. Oh wow. 3 beams on Artanis. That's just terrible. Unfortunately, Artanis doesn't have a teammate for me to really show it, and you can't use it against buildings or enemies. But you can see here that it does do quite a bit of damage, sitting at about 600 per second. So that just shows you that if they stay put, you're going to kill them. That just did 4,700 damage. I've got a 7,000 health pool at this level.
Choose a talent.
Alright, let's look at level 13. We have Phase Bulwark. When Shield Overload activates, you take 50% less damage from abilities. So this is essentially your spell shield, but it only activates when your Shield Overload activates. So it is nice, but it is something to be careful of. If you're going for defensive build, though, it will actually proc more often than your spell shields will, because if you're going out there lowering the cooldown with your auto attacks, especially with your twin blades, then you'll be getting the phase bulwark constantly as you get the shield overload. So I think this is a really great defensive option. Alternatively, there's triple strikes. Twin blades' number of basic attacks increases to 3.
We are strong.
This is quite useful in both offensive and defensive capabilities. I mentioned that this reduces the cooldown of shield overload. With triple strike, you get 3 hits. All 3 of them reduce the cooldown. So you get a 12-second reduction if you hit with all 3 of those. So this is a great way to help out offensively and defensively. You're doing more damage, and you're also getting more tanky as you reduce your cooldowns. Other options at this level are Graviton Vortex. Phase Prism will pull and damage an additional hero near the first. Now, unfortunately, in this mode, I can't really show that off, and I really haven't tested it out on the field. I don't know how I feel about this one, to be honest, since I haven't really used it. Yeah, you can pull 2 people at once, but at the same time, usually when you're using your Warp Prism, you are trying to pull one person out so they can be picked off. Now, at the same time, this also means that you could probably come up behind an enemy group or hit them from a flank and pull more than one of them away where your allies are already fighting and really disrupt the enemy defenses that way. So you could basically pick apart their front line and pull the enemies out that way. So Graviton Vortex, I think this one is going to be one that those of you out there are going to want to play with, experiment, see if that's something you want to build with. I personally just don't think I really would care for the playstyle of it. Lastly, we have Burning Rage. A lot of tanks get this. It's the AoE damage that you get. And honestly, this is one of the few tanks that I think this is not a great pick for. A lot of tanks this works really well for because you're out in the thick of it and you're doing damage. But really, if you're going to be doing damage, you might as well be getting Triple Strike. If you're going tanky, you might as well be getting Phase Bulwark. Those are the ones I definitely recommend. Of course, Burning Rage does have its usage. If the enemy has a lot of stealth characters, then this will knock them out of stealth. But if you're good at spotting that, then you can just really knock them out with the Blade Dash or the Warp Prism. Here at 16, we get Shield Surge, increases Shield Overlord shields by Overlord. I keep saying that by 50%, but it decays to the normal amount over 3. So you get 50% of the shields, and then over 3 seconds, it goes from that additional 50% down to what I would normally get. So here I have a 1,400 point shield. It would go back down to that after 3 seconds, and then I would have 2 seconds of my regular shield. When you're in the thick of a fight, though, that can be quite useful, and that could keep you alive for quite some time. And just to show you how much shields that can be, and how quickly we can get it back. Oh yes, level 30. This might take a moment. I tend to forget. And there you go. Fairly decent shield, and you can keep refreshing it.
Choose a talent.
Alright, back to 16. Other than Shield Surge, you have 3 options for augmenting your Twin Blades. You have one of my favorites is Zealot Charge. When you activate the Twin Blades, you charge a short distance to your target. And you can see it's a pretty good distance, actually. It's a great way of closing that gap. It's about the same distance as if you could hit them with the Blade Dash. He'll just go right in and he'll do the damage.
Choose a talent.
A wise action.
You have Titan Killer. Twin Blades deal more damage versus heroes. So you'll do an additional 2.5% damage. So this is Giant Killer. Artanis has a lot of talents that already exist out there, but they're unique to him in a way. So Giant Killer, for example, he has it, it just works differently. Spell Shield, he has it, it just works differently. It's a common theme with Artanis, and I kind of like that it has he has his own way of doing things. This can be very useful if the enemy teams are quite tanky. And since you can combine that with Triple Strike, you can do quite a bit of damage with the Titan Killer. Alternatively, you could get Psionic Wound. This one I don't care for just because of the requirement of hitting with both strikes. Not that that's terribly hard, but I find you could do more with Zealot Charge in order to charge in, or even Shield Surge for defense. This one causes the final strike of your Twin Blades to cause the enemy to be vulnerable for 2 seconds. That doesn't so much help you, because after you've used your Twin Blade on them, the only other option you really have for damage would be Blade Dash. And 2 seconds is kind of short, so you'd have to make sure you hit it right away. So there's a real potential for you not getting the best damage out of that. Your team might, but it is only 2 seconds. So really, again, it's kind of like all the other ones where he boosts himself for a couple of seconds to do more damage. It just doesn't seem like the window is quite right to be useful. If you are going to use Psionic Wounds and experiment with it, I highly suggest not getting Triple Strike, since Psionic Wound specifically says the final strike causes them to be vulnerable. So if you pick Triple Strike, you have to hit with all 3. So please keep that in mind if you're trying this. Again, talents I recommend for this tier are Shield Surge for your defenses and Zealot's Charge for offense, although Titan Killer would be a fairly good alternative if you have a lot of tanks. But do keep in mind that going in with a Zealot's Charge, it just allows you to keep up and allows you to keep reducing the shield cooldown that you have. Titan Killer, you have to always manage to get up to them, and sometimes if they're running away, you just can't do that. Zealot's Charge, just make sure they can't get away from you. So at 20, well, we've already looked at Bombardment and Target Purified, and I'm pretty sure everybody knows how Nexus Blades works. That's pretty simple. It's basically just additional damage, and you slow the targets whenever you hit them with melee. Very good if you're going for your offensive builds. Force of Will allows you to decrease the cooldown on your trait, your Shield Overload. Every attack you do is already 4 seconds. This increases it to 6. So if you've got Force of Will, you're going to have your shield up more often. Alright? Combine that with your Triple Strike. Alright, so you've got 6 seconds for every strike. That's 18 seconds if you hit with all 3 on an ability that has 20-second cooldown. That means in 2 seconds, you will have that shield back up. You want to be tanky at the end of the game? Go with Force of Will. Force of Will with Triple Strike. And just watch how hard it is for the enemy to take you out. And that is Artanis. Looking at it with the new menu options, I kind of got a little lost in my way there. Normally I go over the ultimates after I go over the main talents. It has been a while since I've done this, so I do apologize if this was a little rough around the edges, but I'm hoping to get back into the groove of it. So there you are. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, please do let me know, as I want to make this the most comprehensive guide for possibly buying a hero that you might want. So if there are any questions I didn't answer, as far as the character and what you would like to see when you're contemplating purchasing him, again, let me know. And with that, we're going to finish off with Artanis' poke quotes. Please enjoy, and I'll see you next time.
Dawn will come. Strength in unity. This realm poses many questions and few answers. Were the Xel'Naga involved in the creation of the Nexus? If so, they have left no temples, no new life forms. Unless those life forms were unseen, controlling us through some sort of complicated digital mechanism, some sort of battle net, as it were. Maybe even thousands of these life forms, all manipulating our lives at once. Oh. All right. This is giving me a headache. I wonder what the Daylon are doing in my absence. Hopefully they haven't rearranged the furnishings in my council chamber. I hate it when they do that. So, the Spear of Adun is right above me, yet Faysmith Karax is nowhere to be found? Ah, typical. Will you stop poking me? Go dispense your aggression on one of the orcs. See how they like it. By the way, I said StarCraft wasn't just Warcraft in space. Whatever this Heroes of the Storm thing is doesn't count. Yes, my starship follows me wherever I go. It is like what you Terrans refer to as a pet, only useful. I was only made Hierarch a short time ago, but I'm still thinking about my career advancement. With a little luck, I'll be Highest Arch in no time. What do you think of the new armor? My last one left me feeling a little exposed. I am only young for a Protoss. I have lived 2 centuries more than most of you, and I would appreciate your respect. I've lived a life that's full. I've traveled each and every star array. And more, much more than this. I did it my way.